guys came out great. I can't believe I was able to score you. Heck yeah. Oh, hey everybody. So today's recipe is going to be really exciting for you mushroom lovers, and how I came up with it is quite the story.
So there I was, making my way through the Eldritch Wood, looking for my next recipe. Or, more honestly, my next coin. When all of a sudden I heard a strange noise. When I looked over, it looked like a man hunched over, scrounging around in the dirt. Eventually, I plucked up enough courage, and I made myself known. My heart raced as I stepped forward, sizing up this possible foe. I called out to him, and turns out it was just a guy. But upon further investigation, I noticed he had a lot of mushrooms and stuff in his beard, and from what I could tell, they were jettle mushrooms.
And a side note, if you see a mushroom in the wild and you don't know what it is, just stay away from it, because some of them are very dangerous. They're poisonous. They can make you sick, make you see things. They can even kill you. And if you see a jettle mushroom, especially a jettle mushroom, walk away, because they are as wild as they come.
He introduces himself as Alan Elmsgiff, a man who loves mushrooms. He quickly apologizes about eating all of the mushrooms, but I tell him it's okay because I'm not really into mushrooms, especially. As soon as I said it, he had this weird face, and then he started just laughing hysterically and going on and on about some dog that he knew named Jet. He just kept going on and on and on about it. And then I realized it was probably the Jettles, so I headed out of there before anything else could happen. But while I was running, I heard a noise, and when I turned around, there was just a dog there. I tried calling out to Alan to see if I would get a response, and nothing. So then I started remembering his story about Jet, and turns out he was a druid, and the Jettles made him fall into a familiar form. A dog named Jet. I knew that, unfortunately, the responsibility fell on me to fix this, because for all I knew, he could get stuck like this forever.
So then it hit me. Mushroom pinwheels. This was a great way to make some dense bread that was going to soak up all those jettle toxins inside of Alan's jet form, as well as also make it tantalizing with the mushrooms. A nice savory dish for any occasion. Let's talk about how to make it. Alright, so prep-wise, first we want to make sure we dice up our mushrooms nice and fine. So obviously you can do it the old-fashioned way with your knife, going through and just chopping them, and eventually you just keep doing that over and over and over and over. I don't have time for that. So I had some of my artificer friends cook me up a little something to make stuff like this go a little bit faster. So I'm going to do that. Y'all can keep cutting the old boring way. Alright, so to start off, we need to go ahead and cook our filling. So we've got a pan over here, heating over medium heat, where you're going to go ahead and throw 2 tablespoons of butter in there. Get that nice and melted, and then we're going to add our 2 finely chopped shallots. And we're going to cook this down for a little bit, just until they soften, about 2 to 3 minutes. And then we're going to add our mushrooms. So we've got this cooking up. They've gotten nice and soft. Now we can add our mushrooms. And now a little bit of salt. And we're going to cook this down for about 9 to 12 minutes until they have browned up, released their liquids, and evaporated. All right, now that they have reduced nicely, we've browned them a good bit. Now we're going to add our thyme, a little bit more salt, pepper, stir that around, incorporate it. And finally, we are going to add our Parmesan cheese. I'm going to leave it off the heat and just incorporate this. And once it is all melted, we got a nice kind of sticky filling. We're going to move it onto a tray to cool while we make our dough.
Also, if you haven't already, you want to go ahead and melt 6 tablespoons of your butter and put it off to the side to cool.
Alright, now we can make our dough. So we're going to take our flour. We want to put a little bit aside for later, so that way we can roll out our dough. And that, let's dump the rest in. 2 1/4 cups. Then we want to add our sugar and baking powder. And a little bit of our salt. We want to whisk that together. Alright, once that is well incorporated, then we take our Gruyere cheese, add it in. Then we're going to keep whisking that back together until that feels nice and evenly distributed. Okay. And now we're going to switch from a whisk to a nice sturdy spoon, because if you try to use a thin one, it'll probably crack. So we're going to take our melted butter, add our 3/4 cup of buttermilk. Now the buttermilk will curdle a little bit inside the butter. That is okay. That's what it's supposed to do. Don't be afraid of it. Whisk that together until it's nice and homogenized. Alright, once that is nice and mixed together, tap out all the extra curdles. We're going to add it to our dough. Make Make sure we get all of that. And now we're going to mix with the spoon. You want something that is sticky and tacky. And once it comes together, we're going to finish it out by putting it onto the table with some of that extra flour underneath it to keep it from sticking. And we'll knead it for a little bit, and then we'll start spreading it out. All right, once we get it to this point, I usually like to switch to my hands, so make sure you remove any jewelry and roll up those sleeves, because this stuff is hard to get off of your clothes. All right, once we get a nice kind of sticky, it's almost dry consistency, but it's smooth, we're good to flour our surface, to put it out and finish kneading it. We just want to knead it till it stays together and it's nice and smooth. And then we will pat it out into about a 12 by 18 inch sheet so we can lay out our filling and roll it up. So now we can start pressing it out. I would highly recommend using a rolling pin for this part, but you can honestly do it with your hands, your palm. Just go around pressing it out. All right, now that we've got our dough nice and rolled out, we're going to take our filling and we're going to spread it. And don't worry, it is going to be thin and patchy on here. That's how it's supposed to be, so don't freak out about it. Just spread it as best as you can and as evenly as you can. Alright, once we get that on, we want to make sure that our dough isn't going to stick to the surface, so I usually like to run a spatula or something underneath it. Even if you've floured well enough, it can still push it around and do it. So we want to now start rolling it up in tight circles. Try and get as much of it to start turning over at the same time. Pressing down on it. And then don't worry about your ends, they're going to be a little rough looking, but we're going to cut those off and not use them anyway. So get it nice, there we go. And once we reach the ends, we're going to crimp them to keep it nice and tight. So that'll be fold it over itself. Once we got that, doesn't have to be pretty. Next we want to just go ahead, use a serrated knife, cut off our ugly ends, put them off to the side, and next you want to do about 1.25 inches cut side up so that way it looks nice and pretty. And you want to put it on an oven safe tray, preferably with parchment paper to help keep it from sticking, and you want them about 2 inches apart on the tray. You should get anywhere from about 12 to 14 rolls. Okay. And before we throw them in, you can either add a little egg wash, or sometimes I like to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on them. And then we're going to throw them in a preheated 425 degree oven for about 18 minutes. We're going to turn it about halfway through that time just to make sure everything bakes evenly. And while that bakes off, you can clean up your messy station or do whatever you want. I don't know how you live, but I like to clean up. Okay, these have browned up and puffed up very nicely. All right, so the original recipe that I got this from calls to finish it off with truffle oil. I don't know about you. I don't have the money for that. And also we don't have truffles close by. So this is the part where I just encourage you, make it your own. If you want to do chili oil to make it a little spicy, go for it. Personally, I like using a little bit of good extra virgin olive oil. Just a little drizzle on top and a little bit of finishing salt just to give it a little extra kick. And thankfully, I have a friend nearby who actually dabbles in spices. She goes by Spice Slayer. You can find her wares in the description. But for now, let's give this a try. Oh my gosh. So good. You've got the funkiness of the cheeses going on in the dough. You've got the meaty earthiness of those mushrooms just coming together with those shallots and the thyme. If you're a mushroom lover, you gotta try this. It goes great as a side dish, as an appetizer, whatever you want it to be. But anyway, that's all for today, folks. I pray that you love others, eat well, and God bless. Oh, and you're probably wondering about Aylin and Jet.
It took a little bit of convincing, but eventually Jet finally ate the bread. And it did its magic. Unfortunately, I was stuck with Aylin after that.
Look at the monitor.
He said Jettles. Awesome.
Can I be done? We value this we value this production. We value the accuracy. So yes, Seth's getting freaking filthy.